Can you save Mario's girl from the clutches of Donkey Kong? Donkey Kong has kidnapped Mario's girlfriend Pauline and taken her to the top of a construction site. It's up to you to help Mario save Pauline before time runs out. But it won't be easy. Donkey Kong will do everything in his power to stop you. He'll throw barrel bombs, flaming fireballs, and anything else he can get his hands on. So if you're looking for action, don't monkey around. Get the original Donkey Kong from the Nintendo Arcade Classics series. Or you can get this one, which is Donkey Kong from Nintendo, 1983, the year of our Lord. Well, what can I tell you about Donkey Kong that hasn't been told about Donkey Kong? It was first released in the arcades in 1981. It's available on the arcade, the Game & Watch, the NES, the Game Boy, the Super Nintendo, the Nintendo 64, the Game Boy Color, the Game Boy Advance, the Nintendo, the GameCube, the Nintendo DS, the Wii, and the Nintendo 3DS. Pretty much if Nintendo has made it, it is on there. Rightly so. Because, you know, it is what it is. This is an early example of the platforming game genre, one of the first major ones, one of the first incredibly popular ones. As the gameplay focuses on maneuvering the main character across a series of platforms while dodging and jumping over obstacles. In the game, Jumpman, since renamed Mario, must rescue a damsel in distress, Lady, now named Pauline, from a giant ape named Donkey Kong. The hero and ape later became two of Nintendo's most popular characters, while Pauline faded away into obscurity. Let's talk about Jumpman here really briefly. Jumpman also is not the proper word. Jumpman got his name, Mario, actually from the Nintendo of America head office here. They had an office up in Redmond, Washington, wherever they are now. I think they're still there. Anyway, and I guess the landlord came over and was banging on the door wanting the rent money while they were trying to come up with a name for little old Jumpman. The landlord's name happened to be Mario, so it just stuck. The game, Donkey Kong, was the latest in a series of efforts by Nintendo to break into the North American market. The president of Nintendo at the time, Hiroshi Yamauchi, probably I'm saying all these Japanese names wrong and someone is laughing at me. But at least you're watching. If only to watch to see how poorly I butcher Japanese names. He assigned the project first-time game designer Shigeru Miyamoto, who went on to do absolutely nothing with his life. Drawing from a wide range of inspirations including Popeye, Beauty and the Beast, and King Kong, Miyamoto developed the scenario and designed the game alongside Nintendo's chief engineer, Gunpei Yokoi. The two men broke new ground by using graphics as a means of characterization, including cutscenes to advance the game's plot and integrating multiple stages into the gameplay. Despite initial misgivings on the part of Nintendo's American staff, Donkey Kong proved a success in North America and Japan. Nintendo licensed the game to Coleco, who developed the home console version for numerous platforms. I actually had, if I still don't in a box somewhere, a ColecoVision cart of Donkey Kong. And I had a small tabletop arcade box of Donkey Kong. It was about a foot tall, maybe 4 or 5 inches wide, and it had a little joystick and a jump button, and it ran on like 6D batteries. It was really neat. Other companies cloned Nintendo's hit and avoided royalties altogether. Miyamoto's characters appeared on cereal boxes, television cartoons, and dozens of other places. A lawsuit brought on by Universal City Studios alleging Donkey Kong violated their trademark of King Kong ultimately failed. The success of Donkey Kong and Nintendo's victory in the courtroom helped position the company to dominate the video game market from its release in 1981 until the late 1990s. Now, here's how it works. Scene 1, we're at, and this is kind of interesting. Each scene is 25 meters high. In scene 1, we must scale a 7-story construction site made of crooked girders and ladders while jumping over or hammering barrels and oil barrels, my goodness, tossed by Donkey Kong. The hero must avoid fireballs, which generate when barrels run into the oil drum at the bottom of the site. Players routinely call this screen barrels. In scene 2, the 50-meter scene, Jumpman must climb a 5-story structure of conveyor belts, each with transport each of which transport cement pans. The fireballs also make another appearance. The screen is sometimes referred to as the factory or pie factory due to the resemblance of the cement pans to pies. This scene did not make it into the NES game. In Scene 3, Jumpman rides up and down elevators while avoiding fireballs and bouncing objects, presumably spring weights. The bouncing weights, the hero's greatest danger in this screen, emerge on top of the level and drop near the rightmost elevator. The screen's common name is Elevators, and it appears as an unlockable stage in Super Smash Bros. Brawl. In Scene 4, the 100-meter stage, Jumpman must remove 8 rivets, which support Donkey Kong. The fireballs remain the primary obstacle. Removing the final rivet causes Donkey Kong to fall and the hero to be reunited with Pauline. This is the final screen of the level, and players refer to this screen as rivets. About that. At the time this came out, Nintendo was pursuing a license to make a game based on the Popeye comic strip. When this ultimately fell through, Nintendo decided it would take the opportunity to create new characters that could then be marketed and used in later games. Miyamoto came up with the characters and plot concepts, but he eventually settled on Gorilla Carpenter Girlfriend love triangle that mirrored the rivalry between Bluto and Popeye for olive oil. Bluto became an ape, which Miyamoto said was nothing too evil or repulsive. He would be the pet of the main character, a funny, hang-loose kind of guy. Miyamoto also named Beauty and the Beast in the 1933 film King Kong as influences. Although its origin as a comic strip license played a major part, Donkey Kong marked the first time that the storyline for a video game preceded the game's programming, rather than simply being appended as an afterthought. An unrelated Popeye game would eventually be released by Nintendo in 1982. By late 1982, this is going to be a long episode, folks, Donkey Kong's success had prompted more than 50 parties in the United States and Japan to license the game's characters. Mario and his simian nemesis appeared on cereal boxes, board games, pajamas, and manga. In 1983, the animation studio Ruby Spears produced a Donkey Kong cartoon, as well as Donkey Kong Jr. for the Saturday Supercade program on CBS. In the show, mystery crime-solving plots in the mode of Scooby-Doo are framed around the premise of Mario and Pauline chasing Donkey Kong, who has escaped from the circus. The show lasted 2 seasons, which is probably one more than most people thought. Makers of the video game consoles were also interested. Taito offered a considerable sum to buy all rights to Donkey Kong, but Nintendo turned them down after 3 days of discussion within the company. Rivals Coleco and Atari approached Nintendo in Japan and the United States, respectively. In the end, Yamauchi, and there is no G in there, I'm not just not pronouncing it, granted Coleco exclusive console and tabletop rights to Donkey Kong because he felt that it was the hungriest company. In addition, Arakawa felt that it was more established in the US. Coleco could better handle marketing. I don't know who Arakawa is. I missed his name. In return, Nintendo would receive an undisclosed lump sum plus $1.40 per game cartridge sold and $1 per tabletop unit. On December 24th, 1981, Howard Lincoln drafted the contract. He included language that Coleco would be held liable for anything on the game cartridge, an unusual clause for a licensing agreement. Arakawa signed the document the next day, and on February 1st, 1982, Yamauchi persuaded the Coleco representative in Japan to sign without running the document by the company's lawyers. Coleco did not offer the game cartridge standalone, which I do have a standalone one, so that's kind of sort of, maybe they made a standalone one later. I don't know. Instead, they bundled it with their ColecoVision. The units went on sale in 1982. Ah, I see. You got the game when you got the Coleco. Makes sense to me. Real quick, last little bit before we wrap this up. The Atari 400 version. The Atari 400 port of Donkey Kong contains one of the longest undiscovered Easter eggs in a video game. Landon Dyer, the programmer assigned to create the port, added a secret where his initials would appear if the player died under certain conditions and then waited for the game to cycle to the title screen. The secret remained undiscovered for 26 years until Dyer revealed on his blog stating, "There's an Easter egg, but it's totally not worth it, and I don't remember how to bring it up anyway." After this announcement, the steps required to trigger the Easter egg were discovered by Don Hodges, who used an emulator and a debugger to trace through 25,000 lines of the game's code. Donkey Kong spawning sequels, Donkey Kong Jr. and Donkey Kong 3, as well as the spin-off Mario Bros., a complete remake of the original arcade game on the Game Boy named Donkey Kong, or Donkey Kong 94, contained levels from both the original Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. arcade games. The arcade version makes an appearance in Donkey Kong 64 in the Frantic Factory level. Donkey Kong license has been kind of shared with Rare in the number of different spin-offs like Donkey Kong Country, Mario vs. Donkey Kong, a sequel to the Game Boy title, Mario vs. Donkey Kong 2. We had Donkey Konga, a rhythm-based game that uses the bongo controllers, Donkey Kong's Jungle Beat, Donkey Kong Barrel Blast. Donkey Kong shows up all the time in Super Smash Bros. And the Super Smash Bros. Brawl version actually features arranged original music by Hip Tanaka and a stage called 75 Meters, which is almost an exact replica of its Donkey Kong namesake. Whew. Its success entrenched the game in American pop culture. In 1982, Buckner and Garcia, the arcade and video victims, both recorded songs, Do the Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong. Buckner and Garcia, also known for Pac-Man Fever. Artists like DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, you can remember them? And here's one that makes sense to be mentioned in the same breath. Trace Adkins both reference the game in different songs. Episodes of The Simpsons, Futurama, Crank Yankers, and The Fairly Odd Parents have also contained references to the game. Even today, sound effects from the Atari 2600 version also often serve as generic video game sounds in films and TV shows. The Killer List of Video Games ranks Donkey Kong the third most popular arcade game of all time and places it at number 25 on the top 100 video games list. In February 2006, Nintendo Power rated it the 148th best game made on the NES. Today, Donkey Kong is the 5th most popular arcade game among collectors, and the phrase, "It's on like Donkey Kong," has been used in various works of pop culture. November 2010, Nintendo applied for a trademark on the phrase with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. And in 2013, video game developer Mike Micah hacked the game to create a version where Pauline is the main character and rescues Mario. He created this version for his 3-year-old daughter, who wanted to play as the game's heroine. The 2007 motion picture documentary, The King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters, explores the world of competitive classic arcade gaming and tells the story of Steve Wybe's quest to break Billy Mitchell's record. Among celebrity players, actor Will Forte is currently ranked on the Twin Galaxies Donkey Kong scoreboard, and rapper Eminem has tweeted his donkey scores on 2 different occasions. The latter score, if it were eligible for verification by Twin Galaxies, would place him within the top 25. Donkey Kong viewers, what do you need to know that I haven't already told you?